Hello and welcome back everyone to the UPSC journey. My name is Babita, you're the Hindu analysis faculty at UPSC journey. In today's session, we are going to cover the complete Hindu analysis for 22nd of May 2026. This section is going to be very helpful for your all upcoming exams, especially for your UPSC exam. And after the completion of this session, you can download PDF from our Telegram channel. Link is in the description box. So we'll start with the first article. And this article is very interesting because we all have heard about Cockroach Janta Party. So this is something relevant to a formation of a state party or a national party in India. So this is like whole context about Cockroach Janta Party, but we are not going into this political news. We are going to stick with our exam point of view. So we all knew that on 15th of May, CGI Suryakant allegedly referred to the unemployed youth and activists as a cockroach and parasite. And in response to that, Abhijit Deepke launched Cockroach Janta Party. But like there is a special criteria that a party need to be met. So first, they need, according to the Representation of People's Act of 1951, a governor registration and a recognition of a political party. Like according to the Representation of People's Act of 1951, if you want to govern, register or recognize as a political party. So registration and recognition of a political party comes under Representation of People's Act of 1951. First point. Second thing, Election Commissioner of India is the authority for the registration under Section 29A of a Representation of People Act of 1951. So it's very important that Election Commissioner of India has authority to register any party under Section 29A of Representation of People Act of 1951. So this is very important. Section 29A of Representation of People Act, which actually govern, register, and recognize of a political parties. To registration of process, like there's a proper registration process for forming a party. Registration process include that party must submit an application to the ECI, means Election Commissioner of India, within 30 days of formation. So first they have to submit an application to the Election Commissioner of India within 30 days, and the party must include a constitutional and rules. Means the party should have a constitution and rules. Second, a list of office bearers, means they have to disclose their office bearers. Second thing, they need to provide a proof of their headquarters and undertaking of uphold Constitution of India and sovereignty and integrity of the nation. So these are the must required condition to register as a national party or to register as a state government party. Like that's different thing. There can be a two type of party. First can be a state party and second can be a national party. But to register as a party, need to have a list of office bearer, proof of headquarters, and they have to undertaking to uphold Constitution of India, sovereignty and integrity of the nation. So from exam point of view, important is that people Representation of People Act of 1951 govern, register and recognize of political parties in India. Second thing, Election Commissioner of India has authority to register under Section 298 of the Representation of People Act of 1951. Okay, so like they can be a national party and they can be a state party. So it depends like what criteria a party is meeting. So to become a national party, you must secure at least 6% of valid votes in more than 4 plus states. So first criteria is that to become a national party, at least have 6% valid votes in more than 4 plus states and 4 plus Lok Sabha seats. So this is can be one criteria that they need to have at least 6% of total valid votes in more than 4 states and in more than 4 plus Lok Sabha seats. Simple, if they have more than like 4 states, they will have or they have to 4 plus more than 4 Lok Sabha seats. So this can be one criteria. And to recognize as a state party in more than 4 states, or if they recognize as a state party in more than 4 states, then they can be considered as a national party. So this is one criteria for a national party. But if a party secured 6% of votes in state legislative assembly or in Lok Sabha election in that state and 2 assembly seats. So here we have seen that 4 Lok Sabha seats. But here, like if you any party secures 6% of valid votes in state assembly or in Lok Sabha, and similarly 2 assembly seats or 1 Lok Sabha seat. So if they get like 2 assembly seats and 1 Lok Sabha seat, then they can be recognized as a state party. And if talk about like the privileges to the national parties and state party, national party like common symbol exists, they have its symbol across India and free airtime. At the same time, common symbol within the state and free airtime within the state. So means once a party is recognized as a national party or state party, they will have their common symbol and they will have a free airtime access. If it's like a national party, it's like across the country, and if it's like a state party, within the state boundary. So this is very required that to become a national party, you must secure a 6% of valid votes in more than 4 plus states and 4 plus Lok Sabha seats. Or you must recognize as a state party in more than 4 states. On the other hand, for a state party, 6% of valid votes in a state legislative assembly or Lok Sabha and 2 assembly seats and 1 Lok Sabha seats. So this is a like criteria to meet to become a state party or a national party. Apart from this, like you have to do a registration process, and the Election Commission of India have authority to register under the section 29A of Representation of People Act. At the same time, you have to submit like some other points, like first you have to submit a party symbol allocated. So once like a party is formed, you will have a one party symbol allocated under election symbol reservation and allotment order of 1968. So this is very important that there's one order under which every party will have its own symbol or own party symbol, and this will allocated under election symbol reservation and allotment order of 1961. Like we all the symbol of like Congress is a hand gesture. At the same time, we look into the BJP. There's a flower. We see a lotus flower. So this is like something is reserved to the parties. So at the same time, if any party have any symbol, they have full right to have a complete reservation over that. And if they like, as we said, they need to at least have some minimum threshold or have this all met conditions. But if they don't met this condition, they can be derecognized possible if perform fell below the threshold prescribed. And they at the same time they need to have a financial transparency. The parties must file audited accounts and expenditure report. Means they have to submit their audit and expenditure report, audited expenditure and accounts report to maintain that financial transparency. So this is things which a party have to submit before they get registered under Representation of People Act. Okay. At the same time, if we so this was about like first. So exam point of view, remember Representation of People Act 1951. Chief Election Commissioner or Election Commission of India has authority to register a party under Section 29A of Representation of People Act. This is some mandatory condition required to have the registration of that party within 30 days. After that, this is the difference between national and a state party. And after that, there's some privileges, like they will get a party symbol, and if they don't meet that criteria at any point of time, they can be derecognized and they have to submit a financial transparency report of their accounts. Now talking about next article. Next article is about Ebola crisis. We all have seen that this Ebola virus outbreak in Congo and Uganda. So it's been continuously in news. Now the context of this article is that there was an India Africa Delhi summit postponed. Like there was a summit that was about to be held in Delhi, but now this is postponed because of this Ebola crisis. So this is whole context. At the same time, we all have seen that there's going to be have a Big Cat Alliance, and this Big Cat Alliance in the capital again in Delhi is put on hold. So these are two summits that was going to be held, but because of this Ebola crisis, both are on hold. Here we leave the postponement of the Africa India Forum Summit 4th that was scheduled to take place from May 28th to 31, but now it postponed it because of this Ebola crisis. So it is the news. We all know that India-Africa Forum Summit 4 scheduled to be held in Delhi in May 28 to 31 and it has now postponed it due to Ebola health crisis as in part of Africa. So because of this crisis, this summit is postponed. And again, there was another international Big Cat Alliance summit planned to be held for June 1st in New Delhi has also been on hold. The decision taken after consultation between Ministry of External Affairs and the African Union, means both the nation, external ministry from India side and as well at the same time African Union have taken a combined decision to postpone this meeting for some time. The last meeting was held in 2015. Like this kind of meeting last held in 2015. India pleaded support to the African nation in tackling Ebola outbreaks. International Big Cat Alliance Summit also postponed due to health concern and visual context. Health workers in proactive gear spraying disinfectant. So now our health workers are coming in the forefront and they are actually helping to tackle this Ebola outbreak. If we talk about like history of this summit, the first summit held in 2008 at Delhi. It was the inaugural meeting with the 14 African countries and focused on the rising oil and the food prices. So now, as we see that this is the fourth summit. So if you talk about like its history, the first summit was held in 2008 in New Delhi, where the concern was like regarding the rising of oil and food prices. So first it held in 2008 at Delhi. Second summit in 2011 at Addis Ababa. It extended to the 15 African nations focused on the infrastructure development. Third summit held in 2015 at New Delhi and it saw participation from all 54 nations. Very important that in the third summit that held in 2015 where at New Delhi, there was a complete participation from all 54 African nations and marked a major diplomatic outreach. So these are the three summits already held and this is India Africa Forum Summit 4th was scheduled to held from 28 to 31st of May. But because of this Ebola outbreak, it has been suspended. Now, it was decided to hold the summit every 3 years. Very important that the summit will held after every 3 years and there will be on an alternate basis. Like if it, like first is in Delhi, and second will be on Africa, Addis Ababa, and the third will be on Delhi, and then fourth was like this fourth summit was supposed to be held in Africa, but because of this outbreak, the venue was shifted to the New Delhi. But now this of ongoing concern, this has been postponed. Alternate in India and Africa, New Delhi was a venue in 2008 and Addis Ababa in 2011. Economically, if we talk about Africa, is a very resource-rich and has been removed from being an underdeveloped continent to have a several fast-growing economy and new democracies. We all know that Africa is a very rich continent, although it's underdeveloped. But this is time to fast-growing economy so that they can have a more resources or they can have a more close cooperation with Africa so that there will be a new democracy. Recently, India announced that it will host its first International Big Cat Alliance Summit and that was supposed to held from 1st and 2nd June 2026. And this Big Cat Alliance, first Big Cat Alliance, so it's very important that it's kind of its first International Big Cat Alliance Summit. And this Big Cat Alliance is also known as Delhi Declaration. So it can be, wait. Okay, so it can be directly asked that what is Delhi Declaration? So Delhi Declaration is a summit that is expected to held in 1st and 2nd June regarding the first International Big Cat Alliance. And this was a first global declaration on big cat conservation aimed at promoting a shared priorities, transboundaries, cooperation, and a landscape-based approach for the protecting of these big cats and their natural habitats. So this was a declaration where we are preserving the 7 big cats. Now, what is the theme of the summit? The theme of summit is Save Big Cats, Save Humanity, and Save Ecosystem. So from your exam point of view, it can be directly asked that what was the theme of this, or what is the theme of International Big Cat Alliance? So theme of Big Cat Alliance is Save Big Cats, Save Humanity, and Save Ecosystem. And this International Big Cat Alliance Summit is also known as Delhi Declaration. Very important. If we talk about the implementation of this International Big Cat Alliance, was established through a National Tiger Conservation Authority, means NTCA, and under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So these are the two implementing agencies for International Big Cat Alliance. First is National Tiger Conservation Authority, NTCA, and again the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So these are two implementing agencies. Objective again is to aim or to protect the conservation of 7 major big cat species. Conserve this big cat species: tiger, lion, leopard, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar, puma. So the main focus of this International Big Cat Alliance to conserve, to protect these 7 big cats: lion, tiger, leopard, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar, and puma. All the United Nations member countries are eligible to become member of International Big Cat Alliance. Very important that all United Nations member are eligible to become member of this. Now we're talking about like what is the need for this International Big Cat Alliance. Big cats are under threat. We all know that these all species are very limited in numbers. We know that tigers, lions, leopards, snow leopard, cheetah, jaguar, puma are very like limited in numbers. So it's like a big threat to their population and due to their habitat loss. So one is that the population is decreasing day by day, and because of their habitat loss, and there's a cases of like poaching. Although poaching is illegal, but still there are cases of poaching because of climate change. Their actual number is declining, and again, a human wildlife conflict are also reason for declining their numbers. So because of this threats, like maybe of habitat loss, maybe of poaching, climate change, or human wildlife conflicts, there's an urgent need to have a conservation at a global scale is required to halt the population decline and reverse this negative trend, so that this trend can be reversed, or we should preserve this big cats for a ecosystem balance. Now, as we have seen that implementing agencies, National Tiger Conservation Authority and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So talking about National Tiger Conservation Authority, is established in 2006, very important. So it can be directly asked that in which year NTCA was established in 2006 by amending Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Very important that NTCA was established in 2006 by amending Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Again, it's a statutory in nature because it's not any constitutional body. It's came into existence by order of government. So it's a statutory in nature by in 2006 under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. And the parent ministry is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Very important from exam point of view that it amended from the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and came into existence in 2006. Okay, now the next article is regarding sedition trials. So sedition is like sedition is a way where any person, if trying to defame the country or trying to create any haterism within the country, or if a person is doing anything which is directly impacting the sovereignty of the country, then that person can be charged under this sedition law. So now what is whole context of the news, that 4 years, but because as of now the government has put it a hold on the trial or registration of cases under the Sedition Act, but even after 4 years putting on hold trials in sedition cases in courts across the country, the Supreme Court on Thursday said that they could proceed with the trials and appeals involving the offense under sedition section 124A of IPC if the accused had no objection. So like like 4 years earlier, the court quoted a hold on trial in sedition cases, but now the Supreme Court is saying that they can proceed for the trial for the appeals involving in the offense under section, if any person is accused under section 124A of IPC, then the trials can be of their appeal trial can be initiated if the have no objection from the accused side. What is the context? That in May 11, 2022 had kept sedition proceeding on hold pending government reviews. So the government said that they need to have a hold on these trials, but still we see that cases of sedition. So first of talking about Sedition Act. So section 124A of IPC defines sedition as a penalized act that brings hatred or contempt toward the government. So if we're talking about like what is actually sedition. So sedition under section 124A of IPC say that sedition is a penalized act that brings hatred and contempt toward the government. Like if you're it's not like generally that if you are criticizing the government, it can be considered as a sedition. But if you are criticizing government in such a way that brings a hatred between the people or it directly impact the sovereignty of the country or integrity of the country, then a person can be accused under this Sedition Act according to section 124 of IPC. So very important. The section 124A IPC define what is actually sedition. So if talk about like its origin, it's a colonial era law introduced in 1870. So it's like not a new law. It was introduced during a British rule in 1870. And according to this act or this section of IPC, there will be a punishment of life imprisonment or 3 years or can be both or can be a fine. So there will be a life imprisonment in case of if any person is accused in sedition charges, and there will be of 3 year imprisonment and or can be a fine or can be both. So sedition is an offense of promoting discontent or rebellions against the government. Is that simple? That if any person or any community is trying to promote discontent or rebellion against the government, then it can be considered as an sedition. It is historically defined under section 124A of IPC. So very important that it was mentioned under IPC section of 124A. And this act bring or attempt to bring, like in this act, if you bring or attempt to bring the hatred or contempt or excites or extempt to, or you are trying to excite the dissatisfaction toward the government in India, then a person can be accused or person can be charged as a under sedition law. So it is classified like in this sedition, it's classified first as a cognizable, means arrest without warrant. So it's very like serious concern that even you have not any warrant against you, you can be arrested in case of sedition. So it's cognizable offense, means can be arrested without warrant. At the same time, it's non-bailable. So there will be a no bail provision if a person is accused under this sedition charge, and it's a non-compoundable. So it's very important that it's non-cognizable, it's non-bailable, and it's non-compoundable. So very important. But now we all know that this IPC has been replaced by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, BNS in 2023, and in BNS it's mentioned under section 152. So very important that in IPC it was mentioned under 124 subclause A. But now in BNS, it's mentioned under section 152. So now BNS is replaced with, IPC is replaced with BNS, and this section 124 subclause A is replaced with section 152. Now this is because of existence of BNS, repealed section 124 of A of IPC. New offenses at that in this like in BNS there was no direct use of sedition, but it act as a endangers sovereignty, unity and integrity of the country, then it will be considered as an offense. Again, it covers secession, armed rebellion and subversive activities. Means if you are performing any activity which is rebellious in nature, which is creating a damage to the integrity of the nation, so you will be charged according to the section 152 of BNS. And in this, previously, we have seen that in IPC section, there will be a life imprisonment or 7-year life imprisonment or 3-year punishment will be there. But in BNS section 152, there will be a punishment up to 7 years or life imprisonment. Means it can be a 7-year punishment or it can be a life imprisonment. So very important that from life imprisonment or 3-year to increase with 7 years. From 3 years, it increased to 7 years. And again, it can be extended up to life imprisonment in both the cases. Again, very important. This sedition is not used in BNS section 152. Sedition is nowhere used, but essence retained in broader terms. But we see that although sedition is not mentioned, but if you are trying to endanger sovereignty, integrity, and unity of the country, then you will be charged according to the section 152 of BNS. So sedition is offense any person by. So sedition is not something that you do by only spoken or by written. It can be spoken, it can be written, or signs or visual representation. Like if you are creating any visual representation also that create a haterism among the citizens, that the person will also be considered as a seditious and can be trial according to this sedition or the BNS section 152. Or otherwise, if you brings or attempt to bring into the hatred and contempt, or excite or attempt to excite dissatisfaction toward the government of India. Dissatisfaction include disloyalty and enmity. Means if you are trying to create a disloyalty and enmity toward the government, then person can be charged under BNS 1 section 152. Thus, Supreme Court in Balwant Singh versus State of Punjab 1995 reiterated that the real intent of the speech must be taken into the account before labeling it sedition. But there was a case in 1995. As we all know that if we criticize to any policy of a government, then government may declare as a seditious, and we can be trialed according to seditious act or seditious like this BNS act of. But now in this 1995 case, the government ruled that they need to have a real intent. Means we have to preserve the intent of speech, because in India we have a right of free speech. We have right to criticize the government. So there's need to have a real intent of speech must be taken into the account before labeling it seditious. Means every criticism or every freedom of speech should not be considered as a seditious. So before labeling it to seditious, we should make consider that it's also a freedom of speech and the citizens have right to criticize. But we all know that freedom is nowhere. But although it's written in the constitution that we have a freedom of speech and we can openly criticize government policy. A person charged under this law is barred from government jobs. Very important that once if a person is accused under this sedition charges, a person is debarred from the government jobs or from the government services, and they have to live without their passport and must produce themselves in the court at all the time and when it is required. So first, like if a person is charged under this Sedition Act and or this I would say BNS section of 152, then the person is debarred from the all government services. So the person cannot be a government employee. At the same time, they cannot move abroad because their passport will be seized from the government and they will have to live without their passport. And at the same time, they will have to appear in the court whenever it is required. The Constitution of India guarantees the freedom of expression and speech. We all know that we have a freedom of expression and speech, and we have full right to criticize the government policies. However, the right is not absolute, but at the same time, we have a freedom of speech and expression, but it does not mean we have an absolute right, because we cannot use any speech or any freedom of expression that actually defame the government, that actually create a haterism. So government can restrict it under a certain circumstances to ensure that it is not abused. So the government has power to restrict this freedom of speech and expression if it like directly linking with the sovereignty and integrity of the country. These restrictions are considered as a reasonable. So we always seen that there's a reasonable restrictions, and it lay down in Article 19, subclause 2 of the Constitution. If the government has a power to restrict or to provide a reasonable restriction on this freedom of speech and expression. During British rule in India, sedition law were used to imprison people who criticize government policy. So as we have seen that it was formed in 1870. So during that time, it was used by British government to imprison the people who actually criticize the British policies. And during that time, many leaders of Indian freedom movements, such as Lokmanya Tilak, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Bhagat Singh, etc., were convicted and imprisoned for their speeches, their writing, and for their activities. Because we all have seen that a sedition can be a person can be considered as a seditious if we do anything by spoken, by written, by signs, or even by visual representation. So all these can be considered as a seditious act, or then there's a person saying by any verbal communication. If a person is writing any tweet or any article, so that can be also be considered as a seditious act. At the same time, if you're using any sign or visual representation, which again hurting the integrity of the country or creating haterism within the country, or trying to create a dissatisfaction among the citizen of the country toward the government of India. So if any of all these are like will be considered as an act of sedition. So this is very important. That from exam point of view, you have to remember the section 124 of a IPC. Let's talk about sedition. And in sedition, like if you bring haterism or contempt toward the government. And in IPC section of 124A, there was a 3-year or life imprisonment. But now in BNS, there will be a 7-year or life imprisonment. But in this BNS, there is no use of word sedition. Very important that in IPC section of 124, there was a use of sedition. But in this BNS, Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita 2023, in section 152, there is no use of word sedition. Again, we have seen that all these acts, maybe by spoken, written, sign, or visual representation, can be considered as a seditious act. And accordingly, we all know that we have a freedom of speech and expression. But again, this freedom of speech and expression is not absolute. Government can restrict, and these restrictions are known as reasonable restriction, which lay down under Article 92, subclause 2 of the Constitution. During British rule, it was used to imprison the people who actually criticized the British policy. And during the freedom movement, there was many leaders like Lokmanya Tilak, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru. They were all were convicted and imprisoned for their speeches, for their writing, and for their activities. Very important. Now talking about next article. We all know that census is conducting in 2026, and the first phase is already started. Now, why it is the news? Because Supreme Court said people must have option to state that they are casteless in census 2027. Because in census 2027, there will be option of caste. But now the Supreme Court saying that if any people not want to, or any citizen of the country not want to disclose its caste, then there should also be a provision of caste list. If they don't want to disclose their caste, it's fine. They should also given one option of caste list in the census of 2027. But at the same time, Supreme Court was not wrong to dismiss a petition that sought to state that caste census, which is a part of ongoing census 2027, because Justice Suryakant remarked that support to the caste account that any government of the day must know that how many people are backward and how many needed welfare. Because at the time we are not aware that actually the backward section of the society or actually who need welfare. So for that we need to know the actual figure of the caste, that how many actually number of people from belonging to the scheduled caste, belonging to the SC or ST or OBC. And so for framing the policies and from providing a welfare, government need to have a proper data of the all the caste. So any government of the day must know how many people are backward and how many need welfare. So people must have an option to state they are casteless in the census. But again, this is the context. But we all know that government need to know the number for framing their policies. But at the same time, the people must have an option in the census to choose a casteless in the census. That if any person not want to disclose his caste, it's fine. They should given an option to choose a casteless in the census. On the other hand, state policy sought to create a casteless society, while on the other hand, like we all say that we need to create a society of casteless society. But on the other hand, they also encountered for the caste identities because we need to know the caste for positive discrimination. Like if any person is belonging to a scheduled caste or a very backward class. So there will be a positive discrimination should be in the constitution, means providing representation to this backward classes and providing employment. So they need to have a positive discrimination to provide them a representation at the same time to provide them a employment. So these are the both concerns that at the same time we need to know the number of about the caste so that we can frame a policies. At the same time, there's a point that we need to have an option or we need to at least have an option so that if a person is not willing to disclose its caste, it should be given an option in the census to be a caste. Caste enumeration will take place in second phase and will invoke asking everyone individual about their caste rather than merely recording whether they belong to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe in their previous census. Like because in this we are going to have a census where every individual will be asked about their caste rather than only asking about they belong to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. As in the previous census, there was only a provision of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, but there was no provision of wait, like in the previous one, there was no provision to disclose the caste. As now, it's especially mentioning the caste-based system. And as of now, the first phase is ongoing. That's about how housing listings. When the second phase will take place, where every individual will be asked about their caste rather than merely recording whether they belong to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, as it was in the previous census. In India, a considerable portion of the state policy is directly or indirectly linked to the caste profile of the targeted groups. We all know that in India, policies are framed in such a way that the welfare can be provided to the most marginalized section and welfare will be provided to this underdeveloping, I would say, caste. Underdeveloped scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, other backward classes. So directly or indirectly, the state policies are linked to the caste profile. At the same time, for governance and welfare, the accurate caste data is very crucial for policy designs and resource allocation. Because to provide the welfare scheme, to provide the resources, we need to have an actual data of this caste. Again, social justice and equality. Paradox of promoting casteless society while continuing caste-based reservation. Because we at one time we are saying that we need to promote a casteless society, but at the same time we are providing a caste-based reservation. So these things both need to be maintained. If we talk about like political significance, caste census influences electoral policy, electoral politics, representation and welfare scheme. Because if we have exact data, accordingly we can frame a welfare schemes, accordingly we can provide them a representation and there will be a electoral politics accordingly. Judicial intervention. Supreme Court emphasizes individual choice in identity declaration. But like Supreme Court is saying that if any person is not ready to disclose his identity on its individual choice, then there will be need to have a casteless option in the census. So if individual is not ready to disclose his identity, that's fine. They should be given an option of casteless. Again, very important from your exam point of view that at one time where we are talking about that we need to have a casteless society, but at the same time we are doing census where we are actually counting the caste. So how these both things need to be balanced? Because this caste less society will be very equal to provide equal opportunity, but at the same time, we need to provide a positive discrimination to this scheduled caste or scheduled tribes or other backward classes for their betterment or to provide them a better employment or to provide them a representation. Okay, it's now talking about next. This is about regulation of online gaming. So this is about like regulation and not complete ban can protect online gamers. So this article is regarding that we need to have a proper regulation regarding online games rather than completely banning, because completely banning will create a itself loophole in the system. We'll see next, like after even a ban, there will be like virtual private networks and there will be a proxy servers and encrypted platforms like WhatsApp and Telegram. So there will be need to have a proper regulation rather than completely banning, because if we completely ban, there will be another loopholes in the system. So we need to have a proper framework so that we can easily regulate this online gaming platforms. So first, promoting this online games, we have an act, that is Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act of 2025, that is PROG Act, enacted to protect youth and vulnerable groups from the adverse impact of online gaming involving money. So we all have noticed that in this online game there will be of involve of money. So protecting youth and especially the marginalized group of the society from this online money frauds. So there need to be have a proper act, and accordingly the government has framed the Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act of 2025. Early studies suggested that use of offshore online betting and gambling platform has risen since the ban. So now this is very shocking that after the ban, there's a rise in online betting games, gambling platforms since its ban. So we have seen that because of its ban, there's a continued increase in this online betting and gambling platforms. Following the implementation of PROC, that is Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act in 2025, usual like once it was into existence, the users quickly shifted from a regulated domestic website to the illegal offshore platforms. We all know that if something is banned in India, we use like VPN or proxy servers. So it said that when it was implemented in October 2025, all the domestic users shifted from domestic website to the illegal offshore platforms. And after the ban, we have seen that there's a rise in offshore platforms like in Delhi. Before use, it was 68.3% use of this online gaming platforms. But after ban, there's an increase of up to 82%. So we have seen that there's a continued increase even after ban. And in Tamil Nadu, again from 67% to 83%. And in Maharashtra, highest increase after the ban is from 66% to 91%. So this data show that instead of complete ban, because if we do a complete ban on this, the youth will directly shift to the illegal offshore platforms. So instead of complete ban, we need to have a proper regulations. Because of this online games, suicide linked to the illegal betting traps continue despite bans. It's highlighted scale of problem, because if like any person is trapped into this betting apps, then they will be a continue, like we see cases of suicide, and this betting apps directly linked with the suicide cases in India. And if we like no control on this, then this will be a very problematic thing. If we talk about like tech evasion tactics, we all know that if something is banned, if like some content is banned in India, then people will generally access it through by VPN, virtual private networks, where mask users' location bypassing geo restrictions. Because by using this VPN, we actually hide our location. So it's a bypassing or it's a tech evasion tactics. Second, proxy servers are encrypted apps. Like if they get easy access from WhatsApp or Telegram channel, which provide them a seamless access. Again, the mirror sites replace blocked domains almost instantly. If we talk about like policy challenges, the ban alone are ineffective because we have seen that in 2025 October we have a complete ban on this online games. But even after the ban, there's a continued increase. So the conclusion is that the ban are alone are not effective, but regulation may be more effective to curb the harm of this online games. And if we talk about like ban push user to offshore platform, we all know that if there will be a complete ban, the users will be shift to the illegal platforms, and regulation ensure accountability. But if we have a regulation, then we will have a accountability. So this is like a difference. Like if we do a complete ban, then there will be a shift toward illegal or offshore platform. But at the same time, if we do a regulation, then there will be accountability. Governance need for a balanced framework means we need to protect the citizen while allowing to have innovation. Means we cannot completely separate or cannot completely cut from the innovation. So we need to protect the citizen while allowing innovation. So there need to be a proper balance. Digital economy, online gaming interact with cyber security, taxation, and youth welfare. So this is also that this is not only regarding the online betting or fraud, but it also regarding cyber security, taxation, and youth welfare. If talking about legislative significance, a first comprehensive law in India targeting online gaming. So it's a first law that is targeting regarding the promotion and regulation of online games act of 2025. So whole context of this article that we need to have a proper regulation, proper checks rather than completely banning this online game, because we have seen that because of complete ban there's a continued increase in the offshore platform users from 67% to 80%, from 66% to 90%, highest in Maharashtra. So they need to have a proper balance both in regulation and not completely banning. Okay, now talking about next that Ladakh belonging through representation. We all have seen that there's a ongoing debate that Ladakh asking for its representation or asking to be included in the sixth schedule of the constitution. So I read this news because Union Minister of Home Affairs urged Ladakh need more 5 districts and not a legislature or a sixth schedule safeguard. Because we all know that from past times where Ladakh is continuously asking to have a safeguard under sixth schedule. But now Union Ministry of Home Affairs said that Ladakh need more district and not legislature, where Ladakh is continuously asking for the legislature or to be included in the sixth schedule. But because of this, the 5 new districts announced in Ladakh. First, Nubra, very important. Second, Changting, Nubra, Changting, Sham, Jaskar, and Dras. So these are 5 districts created in Ladakh and not included in the sixth schedule. So very important, 5 new districts like Nubra, Changtang, Sham, Janskar, and Dras. It's created as a UT. Ladakh became a union territory in 2019 by separated from Jammu and Kashmir. So in 2019, it's separated from Jammu and Kashmir and created a separate UT. Its area is about 59,000 square kilometer, high altitude terrain with villages separated by mountain passes. We all know that this area is completely high altitude terrains and have a mountain passes. Governance reform, creation of new districts to improve the administrative accessibility. Now the government has created this more 5 districts so that they will have a more administrative accessibility. But at the same time, Ladakh is demanding to have a legislature rather than merely creating a districts. Certainly, administrative accessibility matter in a region and is spread across 59,000 square kilometer of a high altitude. We agree that administrative accessibility is also very much required because its area is high altitude terrain and village separated by mountain passes. Harsh winter do require local administrative presence. It's very very obvious that in this area we require a more administrative presence, but at the same time Ladakh is demanding for the legislature and to be included in the sixth schedule. But handling our district is not a democracy, but only by creating a district is not a democracy. Districts cannot be legislate on the land protection, because only creating a district will not provide a land protection, a demographic safeguard, a ecological preservation, employment priorities, cultural autonomy, and renewable energy negotiation. Because only by creating this district will not protect their land, will not protect their ecological system, will not protect their cultural rights. So education policies or the long-term development vision of the region. Districts are instrument of administration. Very important that these districts are instrument of administration, where legislature are instrument of representation, because Ladakh is actually asking for the representation. Very important, not for the administration. But now the government has created 5 more districts that will help in administration and not will help in representation. Is that clear? That government is created administration, convenient districts, where Ladakh is actually asking for the representation. A legislature shape the future of the people. We all know that if there will be a legislature in the UT, then it will help in the future of the people. A district report upward to the bureaucracy, a legislature answer to the downward to the citizen. Because if there will be a administration and if there will be a district administration, then it will report to the bureaucrats in the upperwards. Well, if there will be a legislature, then it will be answerable to the local citizen of that area. Same applies to, because in this article there is a reference of another states, like talking about northeastern state. When the Nagaland was granted statehood in 1963, its population was barely around 3 lakh. So in this they are saying that as we have northeastern state where Nagaland, Sikkim had already given us statehood, so why not it given to the Ladakh? So it's simple that in Nagaland was granted statehood in 1963 with population 3 lakh, and same Mizoram in 1987, Sikkim entered as a state in 1975 with population of barely 2 lakh. So now on this same basis, Ladakh is also asking to have a more representation, and they will asking for a legislature. Talking about 6th schedule of the constitution provided administration of tribal areas like Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. So 6th schedule we have to remember by A, T, M square. So A for Assam, T for Tripura, M for Meghalaya, and M for Mizoram. So remember, in ATM no money. So Manipur is not included in the 6th schedule. Very important to remember, in 6th schedule we have a ATM square which include Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram, and there is no money, means Manipur is not included. But if any state or any UT is included in the 6th schedule of the constitution, then they will have right to creation of autonomous council in their region. And this autonomous council will help to govern the districts. Under 6th schedule, the tribal areas are constituted as a autonomous districts, and the governor is empowered to organize and reorganize this autonomous districts. Article 244 provides the formation of autonomous district councils. Very important that Article 244 provide for the formation of autonomous district council under 6th schedule. So if any state is under 6th schedule, they will have power to form an autonomous district council according to Article 244. And some have some legislative, judicial and administrative autonomy within the state. Further, it consists of a district council which consists of 30 members, of whom the governor will nominate 4 members, means there will be a council of 30 members in the district, and out of this 34 members will be nominated by governor and remaining 26 will be elected on the basis of adult franchising. If there will be different tribes in autonomous districts, like if we talk like if there will be more than one tribe in that autonomous district, then the governor can divide the district into several autonomous regions, and each autonomous region also have a separate regional council. So we have seen that in this case, governor has power to divide any autonomous district into several autonomous districts according to the if there is a representation of different tribes in the same region, and accordingly they will have a separate regional council. And if this autonomous district councils are formed, they have powers, like they have power. State laws are not applicable in tribal areas unless extended by ADC. So first thing, that if any autonomous district council is formed under 6th schedule, then state law will not be applicable in that tribal area unless it is not extended by autonomous district council. So it's very important that it provide a rights to preserve, because there will be no applicability of state laws. Again, if ADCs are established and managed, they manage cultivation, divorce, inheritance, and social custom. So all these things will be controlled by autonomous district councils. They have power of marriages, government approvals. Again, ADC has access to land revenue, taxes on profession and trade, grant license or lease for mineral extraction, and grant lease or from mineral extraction again. And ADC have also of village court council and district court council, handle dispute involving scheduled tribes in the district. So once if there will be autonomous district council, they will have power to manage all these things. Affairs regarding their cultivation, divorce, inheritance, and state laws will not be applicable until it's extended by autonomous district council. Again, they have power of land revenue, taxation, and they will have power of village court council and district court council, and have right to handle the cases regarding scheduled tribes in the district. So this is about today's session. I hope you like it. Thank you so much, everyone. And let's do a recap again. So first we have seen about like formation of a new party, that is Cockroach Janata Party, and what is the key requirement to become a national or a state party. After that, we have seen the Ebola outbreak. Again, after that, we have seen that there is a sedition trials, and now how this IPC section of 1 to 4 is replaced with BNS and with section 152, where sedition is nowhere mentioned. After that, cast away. If any person is not ready or not willingly ready to disclose its caste, then there should be also option of a casteless in the census. After that, we have seen that there need to be a regulation rather than a complete ban on the online gaming. After that, we have seen that Ladakh need a more representation rather than creating a district that will only help in administration and not will help in representation. So this is all about today's topic and how this power of autonomous district council we have seen, and by this power there will be no applicability of state laws. So this is about today's session. Thank you so much, everyone.